2017.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from August 8th, 2017, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. I will also note that there is a summary of the workshop that was held with the governance committee. While those are official minutes,
That was August 10th.
I need everybody to just understand that is a recap of what was discussed at that meeting. And they are available to be picked up if anybody wants a copy of them. Additions, deletions. I need to add under other business, town attorney / Lisa Johnson, because we have now hit our window. And then I need to add a transfer station under old business. All right then, let's go ahead and skip over the warrants because it doesn't look quite ready yet. Let's go ahead and do the reports to the highway. Kurt isn't here this evening. So I take it he left some kind of a synopsis.
And, what business? We did get an estimate on glass for the JD 544. We did not, however, get a labor estimate on that with it because Nortrax apparently doesn't put in the glass. They have a glass company do that. So we're right now waiting, sort of, on the glass company contacting us and giving us a better price. But the glass itself, out of the book, is about $2,500 just for the glass, and I think we can probably assume that labor is going to be probably close to that. We have a $1,000 deductible with the LCT, so it's going to cost us $1,000 out of it for the damage, the vandalism, damage to the loader. That was down there. Clerk called me right before he left today and said that Basin, I don't know if anybody been up on Grafton Road, Basin apparently has their contract. They're prepping, getting ready to go. He doesn't know when they're going to start, maybe weather dependent, but
That's the paving.
that's the paving between the Grafton Townsend line and Acton Hill Road, roughly, not to exceed the money that we aren't exceeding.
By prepping, you mean they spray painted the sides and put two nice grooves in the road so they could hammer over them.
Okay.
And I drove away a week ago.
Okay, if that's, he told me they were up rushing or they were getting prepped and ready to go, so, but he didn't know when they were gonna start because he hasn't talked to them. He has been trying to get a hold of Jeff Nugent with regard to the network inventory, the inventory anyway, but Jeff hasn't called him back, so that one's still in the air. Labor costs on the 544, and he said that D&E did a wonderful job when they came up to do the trees last Thursday. He and Bob worked with them because Ed wasn't here, and I don't know what they did. I know they were up Grafton Road. I don't know where they went beyond that or Athens Road, but I haven't been up to see what got done. But he said they did a good job, and he had them do the one in front of Larry Gould's there, that little one, at Larry's house, on their way out because they all quit at 2:30. They stopped and did that one.
What time, I looked at the ambulance, what time did they start?
They came through town, I was at town hall, they came through town, I emailed Kathy real quick, they came through town at 8:05, so they would have been at the garage about 8:15. They would have gotten set up, and Kurt was at the garage wearing his vest, he was outside talking to somebody when I went by about 7:45 on Thursday morning. But anyway, their little caravan went by about 8:05, and Ed and Kurt checked out before 3, 2:30, 3 o'clock, 2:45, something like that. And I think D&E was probably done by 3 with that whole tree at Larry's crossing the garage.
Yeah. So not quite the 8 hours that.
For working time, probably not quite 7.
Okay.
And there was a bill in the warrants they've already sent through. So
Anything else from that? From what Craig?
that's all he gave me. So he had some things to attend to tonight. So.
Well, I have to say that while he may have things to attend to, I've got a life as well. I have things to attend to, and I
We
think
all
it's
do.
vitally important that when the select board meets, that the highway foreman needs to make an effort to be here so that we can ask these questions of him. And the fact that he's not here now postpones any discussion we might have had, any issues we were following, out another 2 weeks, and that is, it's just not acceptable.
I agree.
We got it.
The RFP is out for Bridge 42, you know that.
And what date did you decide to put that back?
There is going to be a public, not public, there's going to be a contractors meeting at 9 o'clock next Monday, which I believe is the 28th. I set up, and Kurt's okay with that. So, I know that at least 6 contractors have been called. One of them has the package so far, I'm not sure if anybody else does. I gave a couple of them to Kurt, I don't know if he's given them out. There are a couple of them on the counter, I gave one to Steve. There are more out back if anybody else wants one, just so Steve knows what the package looks like. We put in the paper that the board would be entertaining, would be taking a look at any returns by the 12th of September. I don't know if that's long enough to get these quotes together. It may be your second meeting in September. But we will have a list of anybody who takes this package, and I can call them and we can put the bids out to the 26th if that seems advisable. But the packages are out and people have been notified. 6 different companies anyway have been notified and have expressed some interest. So. And there's a meeting, 9 o'clock, on the site, West Hill Road, Bridge 42, 9 o'clock, Monday, 28th. And it is in the letter as a mandatory meeting for the contractors. So
And we do know there will be somebody from the highway department there?
there will be. The foreman will be there. I'll put out reminder notices, everything.
Not being this late, time they get the material or whatever they've gotta have, it's gonna be pushing it some to get it done this fall.
Could very well be. I mean, there have been delays right along in all of this, and not the least of which is the 20%, 10%, how we're, figuring this is all gonna work with our payment on it. I still don't have a countersigned grant application. It's up there, they've approved it, it's good, but we don't have a copy here. That being said, there are 2 companies who have already spec'd out the bridge, working with Beck's engineering drawings, and have already provided prices. They have it in their work queue. And that information is available in the bid package. So any contractor can immediately call 2 local bridge manufacturers and find out what the pricing is on that, or they can do it differently. It's up to the contractor how they want to do it. It's not that hard. It's, from what I understand from everybody, it's not a very big bridge. They do it all the time. But anyway, there is some interest out there, and as I say, there's a package that's 25 pages or 20 pages or something. It's sitting on the counter in there, and I've got some back here, and the drawings, the technical specs are available electronically. If somebody emails me, I can forward those as a PDF.
But you still gotta cut the concrete.
Oh, there is no doubt. There is work to do at the site, and getting it all coordinated and figuring out how that's gonna happen, removing the old bridge, putting a new one in, assembling it, if they're gonna be assembling it on site. And to be able to keep that road open.
Are we gonna, that's what I was gonna ask, is how long, are we gonna have an estimated, or are we gonna tell them that you can only keep it closed for this amount of time? Or,
I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't looked. I'd have to ask somebody who knows more about it. How long will it take? If you know that the bridge is being delivered on 2 flatbed trucks, parts and pieces, some of it pre-assembled, but if you know it's being delivered, you gotta crane it off the trucks, and you've got a work area right next to the bridge, how long is it gonna take you to take apart the old one, close the road, put up a detour sign, so that you can put the new one in ASAP? Once you take the old one out, how much foundation work do you have to do? I mean, I know the foundation doesn't need much work, but it needs some tinkering. So I don't know. I'm not that kind of. Hopefully, it won't be closed for more than a couple of days.
I think in the bid we should ask them for an estimated closure time.
Yeah,
So
that's not something I've got, but we can certainly
No,
bring
but
that.
when
We
we
can
get
certainly
to
bring
the
that.
contractors
Bring it
meeting.
up at the meeting. That the board is not only going to want to know price, but obviously doesn't want the road shut down for a week.
Right.
A week and a half. But, yeah, I didn't think to put that in there, to be honest with you.
What was when's the deadline on that grant? I believe there
Oh,
was-
it's 18, it's
It's 18,
It's
it has to go
December,
through.
yeah, it's December 31st, 2018, so we've got another year and change on that,
Yeah, I don't
16
remember being
months,
that
15
long.
months. Oh, I understand that, the pressure is on right now, so whether it's gonna get done this fall or postponed until this spring. We'll see, if it gets postponed till this spring, maybe we can renegotiate and get 10% copay instead of 20.
We just don't have network inventory, or structures
Well,
inventory,
you
or
had- you had an
whatever
app-
the heck we
You had an
decided we were
absolute,
looking
you had an
for.
absolute guarantee here at the last meeting that that would be taken care of
And
by
we can't even
Christmas.
get a hold of Ted Nugent.
Jeff,
Okay. All right, I quit, I'm
So
done.
you have to do that once a meeting now,
Okay.
because you're on a roll.
Evidently, I
Or
am.
you got it on a stranglehold.
Yeah. All right, you also should have gotten a copy of the town clerk's over-the-counter money, and then I checked Steve, no dogs. Treasurer, Joe?
Yes. And, sweep account, $993,180.69. And the checking account, $29,812.53. I'm gonna have over $100,000 tomorrow to put in the bank.
good.
So it's nice to have money, but it goes away so fast.
You're well in 20 days, well, 30 days now.
You're well in a few minutes.
Anyway, so let's, unless you have some questions for the treasurer, let's go back up and try to run through the warrants.
Make a motion that check warrant number 1, payroll, in the amount of $8,286.18.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $8,286.18, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 2 out of payroll taxes in the amount of $3,419.36.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll tax warrant number 2 in the amount of $3,419.36, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 3 out of the highway in the amount of $1,000.
Is there a
That's
second?
the D&E?
It is. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Yes. I would like to hear from Kurt,
me too.
how long a day they put in, what they did, to make sure that we are satisfied that we've been recouped for what I perceive as
Okay.
the shoddy work before.
And my question would be, how do we expect to get 8 hours out of D&E when the highway department starts at 6 and D&E doesn't start till 8? And then our guys go home at 2:30 and then D&E follows, so how you ever gonna get 8
Right, how are you
hours?
gonna get 8 hours?
I think they need to,
It seems like that should be a case where, oh, all right, D&E's coming tomorrow. Guys, we're coming in at 8 tomorrow instead of 6, and we're gonna work 8 to 4 with D&E,
right,
right?
right.
Okay.
That's usually logic. We had a discount.
Time management.
Okay, so is there any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 3 in the amount of $1,000, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
I,
Abstentions? The motion fails.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 4 out of general fund in the amount of $3,301.34.
second,
Is there any discussion?
yes. Mileage reimbursement for Mr. Bills for the month of March, is it?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, well,
Was it March?
it's August 22nd that it went in,
You have to look at the sheet, see when you wrote it down.
It's John.
No, it'll be up.
Should be off the document.
They don't get it after that.
Okay.
Right there.
Android.
3/20/16, $50.60.
Why is that highlighted? Did you highlight?
No.
Is.
It's like an old one?
3,
Oh, that's a computer printout. That's not my writing, so.
I don't know.
Is there a bill, Mike? Yeah, there's a bill.
Was it for that amount?
Where's the bill?
For $50, I don't know, is that $50.60? Yes.
Right, that's not a bill, that's a
Well, I
computer printout,
understand.
that was paid. So, why has she got a receipt in there and not a bill?
It says it's paid.
Yeah, but it was paid on 3/20.
I understand, but there's your
Okay.
check number.
Right,
I
now we have
wonder-
a check number, so what do we got up here?
So he must have asked for,
He asked for, replace. Replace, then he lost the check. It's a replacement. Or something. So that means there's she's got a,
Oh, it's a replacement for a check that was already issued.
apparently she's got to void that or something, I don't know, I just see the word replacement.
Someone can tell us whether that check cleared or not?
she would have checked that.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's
I
why
don't-
that printed, that's her highlight. She didn't talk to me, but that's interesting, because that's
Well,
well, it's an oddity, and that's.
The oddity is there's absolutely no request here from Mike Bills for a reimbursement check.
He would have asked her, she would have done a printout, and I understand that.
It should be in writing.
Well, and she should have talked to me about it, at least so that I could explain it to you at the table, instead of looking like, I haven't got a clue what's going on, I didn't see it in there. Yeah, there's no demand in there.
No.
But since it says replace check number, I assume that he lost the check, or he never got it, or we never cashed it. I can't look at bank statements and find out if it's a skipped, at this point. I mean, I can tomorrow,
There's absolutely
but I
no-
can't bring it up to tell you if it's been cashed or that.
Well, we can certainly, until we clarify that, we can certainly deduct that amount
Yeah,
from,
take it out.
from the total.
mhm.
We got paper citing that. Okay, is there any other discussion about
Good.
this particular one? All right, so what we need to do, oh man, you really did.
You want a calculator?
P-brain, yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's.
That's number 4.
34.
330134 less.
Yeah, What's-
How much was it, Kathy? 56?
$50.60.
Yeah.
3250.74.
All right, so somebody needs to make a motion to amend the warrant.
I move that we amend the warrant by the amount of,
Amend to.
Amend to
amend to
$3,000.
$3,250.74, awaiting clarification.
Whoever seconded that, is that okay?
Steve seconded it, so he's okay with it, obviously.
All right,
So
so then.
now that becomes the main.
Yeah, that's the main motion. So all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 4 in the amount of $3,250.74 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. We'll need to get clarification on that
Okay.
and find out whether there's a demand
Yep.
for payment. All right, so we're almost done. You actually, your timing is great. Good job.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 5 out of the general fund in the amount of $43.10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 5 in the amount of $43.10 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 7 out of the equipment fund in the amount of $693.
Oops, skipped one.
That is good. Yeah, that's under.
Highway number 6.
Yeah, there you go.
Back to what I was saying. Make a motion to pay check warrant number 6 out of the highway fund in the amount of $1,068.22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, we would like to have the highway foreman here tell us whether Hunter North provided services for those hours and if their hours coincided with the hours of the highway department.
Okay, do we have a dollar amount to that?
From Hunter North you do, yeah.
Or is that the whole quarter amount?
They were here for 2 days.
2 days.
I don't know if both days are in question or just the one, but Kurt was gone one of the days, and Ed was gone for
Next time you do the math.
partial for the,
356.
partial for Thursday, and Kurt was gone on
What
Friday.
are they lines? To take out?
403.75,
Yep.
356.
Oh, I missed the top one.
308.22 is the amended amount.
I'm sorry.
30822?
Yep.
All right.
So
So-
I would make a motion to amend check warrant number 6 to the amount of 308.22.
Is there a second for that? Whoever made the original second? All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying amended highway warrant number 6 in the amount of $308.22 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 7, the equipment fund, in the amount of $693.62.
Is there any discussion? Really? Gonna let it go? I'm impressed. Hearing none, all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 7 in the amount of $693.62 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, so if you would be so kind as to make sure
I
that
will.
Peter can follow what just happened,
We'll figure those out.
I'd appreciate it.
Signatures on that?
Oh, I don't know.
3, 5. 2, 3.
All right, then let's move on then to the members of the public. And if you would be kind enough to introduce yourself to
Okay.
those of, you will introduce yourself and we'll introduce ourselves.
Sure. I'm Bob Tebow. I'm the principal next door at Leland and Gray. I started a year ago, July 1st.
I'm Bill Antone. I'm the superintendent of Wyndham Central Supervisory Union, and I also started last
It
year.
was a kind of a new slate all the way down the line.
Yes.
All right, so.
I'm Will Bissonette, select board member.
Was Craig gonna be coming?
Yes, he should be here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Rob Wright?
Kathy Hagan and Bob.
Urban Stoll.
Stephen Frisk.
Okay,
Craig Hunt, I'm the assistant. This is Richard Millinson. You probably know him. He's the videographer. This is Joe Daniel, our treasurer.
Fantastic.
I've met with the two principals a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And we had a very nice casual conversation about some of the issues that have faced the town and as a host town for the two schools, and particularly right here on the Common. And I asked both principals to come, number one, to introduce themselves since we don't really know them. And to number two, just try to have a casual dialogue for a change instead of waiting till something severe happens. And then everybody's in a mood. So, I just would like to have a discussion about anything that might be on your mind with respect to what's going on in the center of town with the schools. And if they don't have anything, then I'll throw something on the table. So we'll let them speak first.
Well, I guess I want to say that I'm new as principal the last year or so, but I taught here for 10 years, from 96 to 06, and was a boys basketball coach. So I've been in the area for a while, and been pretty familiar with the ongoing tension between the town and the school, dating back to when the store was over here and the kids were standing in the corner smoking, back in those days, which probably went on prior to me being here as well. I think when I took the job as principal, one of the things I wanted to kind of work on, and the first year was obviously pretty busy with lots of other things being under wraps, but one of the things I really wanted to work on was being good neighbors to the town and trying to, repair whatever damage has been done in the past. Think about moving forward and what sort of improvements you guys would like to see from us, and what support we can have for each other. Just be good neighbors. It's it's the way to do it, and we're looking to have a positive presence in town in every way possible. So.
Excellent. Anybody have anything to?
How many kids dropped out of school this past year?
Dropped out of school this past year. Off the top of my head, I would say maybe 2.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I can't speak to those 2 specifically, but I can tell you the number one reason that kids drop out of high school that they report is being bored. Being bored, which can encompass a wide array of real reasons. Can be that the work is too challenging and they can't manage it. It can be that the work isn't challenging enough, and it could be that the instructional strategies aren't engaging enough. Lots of different reasons. So as far as the ones this past year, I can't really speak to them specifically, but I can tell you that one of the things that we've been talking, Bill and I have been talking a lot about, You know, with Act 46 having come down the pike and Leland and Gray being kind of a small school, and the enrollment, when I started teaching here 21 years ago, there was 450 kids next door. And now we're down just a hair over 300. It's a pretty significant decrease. Yeah.
It's a big drop.
It's a big drop. Some of it accounts for tuition students. We're not getting as many from Dover as we once did. A lot of them are headed to Bernburg or heading to Brattleboro. I'm gonna try to get those kids back. And some of it is just the declining enrollment that's a statewide trend. So one of the challenges that we have at the high school is trying to figure out how to address that, how to stay as a viable school. You know, and so one of the things that we've been talking about is how to engage students in a process that really makes school more interesting for them, keeping them from dropping out, but engaging them in their own learning in a way that every kid really has access to a fully personalized education, but really getting the skills and content knowledge they're going to need to survive in the workforce, in college, military, whatever avenues they take when they leave here. So we're trying to, that issue of why we have dropouts and how to fix that, how to address that is something that it's number one, because A, a kid drops out, not only do we lose that kid, we also lose the revenue stream that kid generates as far as keeping the school afloat. So it's a double whammy for us. So it's really important for us that we maintain those kids and keep them interested in being in school. So.
Do you know why the tuition students have dropped so dramatically?
I think there's fewer of them in the pools that they're coming from initially. I think the last decade or so has been a little tumultuous here. There's been some turnover in administration. There's been some personalities that haven't been necessarily as friendly. And I think that there is a reputation that's sort of gone around what the school was and what it wasn't. And I think a lot of families made the choice to go to other places.
Was the personality in the school, or is the personality at home with the parents?
Well, I think that what I'm referring to is the personality in the school, administration, and just sort of the tenor of the building. I'll give you one quick example. I'm not here to like crap on anybody, but when I came on board, one of the first things I did was called the sheriff's department, called the state police, just to kind of connect. Hey, new guy in town. We use police services a lot. Just want to introduce myself, blah, blah, blah. And the first question I got was, oh, are you going to let us in the building? And so that's kind of an odd question, because I was the principal up at Springfield High School for 7 years and had a really good working relationship with the police department up there. In fact, we started a cops in school program that hit CAX, and we were kind of in the news for it. I said, yeah, well, was this a problem? And he said, well, the previous principal just didn't let officers have to wait outside the door. And only she could administer an officer coming into the building. And it had to be very clear, and she had these procedures. And there was this whole kind of like holding people off at arm's distance. And I said, you guys are welcome anytime you want to come in, hang out with me. We'll go down to the cafeteria, have lunch with kids, bring a dog, do whatever you want. You should be a part of this community as much as anybody else. And both the sheriff and the commander at the new barracks were both very happy to hear that. And we've had a great interaction with them in the time since. So I think it's those kinds of things, just being an open and a friendly kind of place, you know what I mean? It hasn't been that way.
It was definitely a closed door policy
Yeah.
for quite a few years. It was difficult to talk to anyone or even get anyone to listen to you.
The town was closed out as well.
And one of the things that we talked about when I met with the two principals was the fact that, and I don't think anybody knew this but me, I'm sure Herb knows, that we share a well between the school and this building. So that when they have a water crisis at the high school, their water's tested monthly. When they have a water crisis at the school, we potentially are going the same boil water order that they would go on, and that there needed to be lines of communication open between the two buildings for just that purpose, because we don't want people here using the water if in fact it's unsafe. And so that was one of the revelations that we had, and again, new
That
people.
didn't exist before?
No, it's actually in the shared well agreement, which goes back, I don't know how many years, but
Right.
the select board has a right to go into the basement of Dutton Gym and look at the water supply that comes in through a 3/4 inch line into this building. It hasn't been attended. I've talked to McGrath about it, but I've never been over there to actually look at it. He tells me they change the filters and do all of that. But we've never heard anything about any issues with the water, but it is a public water supply here.
Right.
People do use it.
Okay, so did anybody else have any questions? Or
Yeah, I got a thing that irritates the hell out of me. That's that Newfane pays the same price per student as Townshend does, and we're losing over $1 million worth of value in the town land and where the school is. But we get nothing for it. And it doesn't cost Newfane anything because they're paying the same price per student as Townshend is.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's the superintendent's.
No, yeah, I'll take that one, that's great. So we don't set the price per
I
student.
realize that. I say it's still here.
But I completely understand the idea that you're the host town for, 5 surrounding communities where that is not a tax-based opportunity. And I can't control that, but what we can do is, let you know that we're new, we're fresh. I don't know if I can solve your $1 million problem, but we definitely want to use the resources that we have at our disposal to help build this community, to support this community. Bob was alluding to the realities of declining enrollment from 450 kids to 300 kids. We look at that as what can we offer differently than a Burton or a Brattleboro. How can we take advantage of being nimble? Think of a ship being able to turn fast. Well, we can try a lot of things, but we want to do it in a very disciplined manner. So the things that I can control and support to help both Bob and Craig is making sure that we have the resources to upskill our system that can deliver what the future needs. One of the reasons that we were fortunate enough to get Bob is that he saw an opportunity to really transform a school and not just do the same old, to take this as an opportunity where he's got some skin in the game because he's got some kids, he's got some history, and to really build something that the community can be proud of. So I'm sorry I can't solve your $1 million problem, but we're going to try to put the resources that Townshend puts into us to the best use we can.
In other words, they've got a lease on town land. The ball field and stuff was a lease so they could build a school.
Which is, it's also going to be an interesting legal dilemma that's coming in that does the lease with the new mud, does the lease to Leland and Gray follow to the mud?
That'll be a
Yeah, we're gonna.
wonderful
we're-
observation by all of our attorneys, right?
Exactly. That, again, this is the type of thing.
No, absolutely.
That we're so intertwined in some respects. Another thing that we have had in the past, and we've had to use, the high school in particular, but the elementary school is another resource that's available, is as an emergency shelter. And it is currently in our emergency plan to use first the high school and then the elementary school, simply because of the handicap accessibility of the elevator in the elementary school. But again, as we start this whole new rotation of people, we want to make sure that those lines of communication are open, because all it takes is a lightning strike at Valley Cares, and suddenly we've got 100 homeless elderly people that we have to put somewhere. And it was very difficult the last time that happened.
On New Year's Eve.
Well, the New Year's Eve was a lot of fun, but the one in the summer wasn't any easier, trying to find the principal so that she would unlock the doors, because we had no way to get these people out of the weather and into that. So that's something that we all need to start to think about as well, is that the community does have with the hospital and with the senior care center, that we do have a lot of elderly people that have to be moved sometimes quickly. And we would appreciate any foresight you might have as to how we could expedite that for the emergency personnel, which we know.
Well, you and I talked about making sure that the keys are in the Knox box, so that you guys.
You have 2 Knox boxes, and the elementary school has 1.
Yeah.
But they're empty, right?
Well, this is what I've been told, and so I need to sit with Ed and someone.
The Knox boxes are empty because there isn't a policy by which the schools developed a relationship with the fire department or first responders in order to put keys in them.
Right.
I think there's a Hershey's chocolate in the one at the elementary school, but I've got the keys to that back here. We can open that up sometime and find out. But basically, nobody has access to it.
I think it's as simple as if you guys have the keys to that, come over sometime with Ed and we'll just put keys in it. Like, we don't need a policy or procedure, I don't think, in place to do that.
Right, but the keys don't, the key that opens those doors doesn't need to be here. It needs to be either with, it needs to be with the designees. that you guys all agree on and the town
Right,
as
so
well.
we-
Whether it's
we-
rescue, the
we-
state police, the fire
I got you.
department, I mean, those, how that access is going to go.
Right.
Because theoretically, you're putting a master key to the school in there.
Right,
You don't want people getting into it without knowing about it,
yeah, for sure.
so.
You know, so again, that's another one of the discussions that's going to have to happen. And we do have an emergency management director. I haven't seen him in ages, but
I've talked to him, but not. in
he
the
should,
last
he should be
month or
part of
so.
that discussion as well, because quite frankly, we do need to know, we've had 2 years running, or was it 2 years or the same year? That we had 2 evacuations at.
2 years on.
At the senior center, so it seems to happen frequently for whatever reason.
Again, and rescue deals with Knox boxes in Brattleboro in a very big way. Now, whether they end up with a key or not doesn't matter, but they do understand how those,
Yeah.
how that works operationally.
Yeah, fire and rescue and would be the two I would think logically.
Yeah.
Well, that's got a whole other set of issues.
Yeah. The other thing I just wanted to mention about the community interaction piece, one new thing that we started this past year is requiring community service for all of our students in order to graduate. So an incoming freshman has to do 40 hours in the time that they're 4 years of high school, not middle school. So one of the things I saw in Springfield when we went to the system was that, you know, by the end of a class who had done this for 4 years, by the time these kids graduated, there was hundreds and hundreds of hours of service given to the community, and we don't allow it to be to just someone who needs like their laundry. It's going to be a nonprofit, so the town can be a recipient of that. An individual might not necessarily be able to be a recipient of that, but the town itself as a nonprofit entity could be. Church, library, elementary school, you name it. So we have that ability.
Town clerk's office.
When you guys have need for that, you need bodies on the ground, you need someone to do some community service. We have coordinators who run that, who post the openings and what's available for kids, and you'll have to sign something to say they did and all that kind of stuff. But that's something you guys should be aware of as well. Big resource for the town.
It'd be an interesting piece to the recruitment that we've been talking about.
We had that discussion a little bit this spring. We were approached that there were a couple of students over there who might be able to work this spring, and we got it before the board and they approved it. It's a matter of supervision at this end.
Of course, yeah.
But it's something we haven't done yet, and whether they can work for the highway department or work here, there's plenty of afternoon things to do
Yeah.
around town that don't require too heavy lifting, but it's the oversight part of it that needs to be
Yeah.
attended. But yeah, the board was quite receptive and happy to help work that out.
I have a question for Bill.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if you go to Leland and Gray as a high school student, you can't go to the Career Center in Brattleboro until your junior year.
That is the normal procedure.
I went to Brattleboro. I
However,
was in the Career
sophomore
Center.
year, but go
I
ahead.
went to Brattleboro, I was in the Career Center for 4 years.
Correct.
I do believe that this town would benefit if and probably all towns would benefit, if you were able to go to the Career Center at any point in your high school. As long as the kid proved that they were willing and able to follow through with the travel and the part of getting there and, you know, taking it serious.
Yeah.
And I think that you guys would benefit a lot in that regard if you would open it up to a lot broader area of the students.
Yeah, typically, it's not us that sets that requirement, it's the Career Center themselves that do
That's
that.
why it was more of a.
Yeah, so he can pressure
And that's
that.
good.
Not a
Because-
question.
Yeah,
Yeah, we meet monthly,
Yeah.
and so I appreciate hearing that is an interest for the community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I have, you know, I'm at an age where there's other parents that have kids that are in that boat where they're like, well, you know.
This would be an opportunity that
Yes.
we would like to see available to our students. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Came in a couple minutes late. You're Craig Roach.
Yeah.
I assume. Okay, I'm Craig, huh? Joe Daniels, the treasurer. Will Bissonnette, Rob Wright, we just heard from, Kathy Heggie, I believe you met with, Irv Stoll, and Steve Frisk. And Richard Knowles, and our videographer.
Anyone else have a question before I go into the nasty little discussion about a road around the common? Told you this one was coming. All right, I received a letter that was left here in the little desk out front. I'm not really certain when or how it got there, but anyway, it says to Kathy and the select board members. I'm a member of the Townshend Church and am going to ask a favor to help support the handicapped coming to this church. I know that asking for one more handicap spot is asking a lot, but we need it. Now, I know that parking is limited, You have 2 schools to deal with, and the teachers, and uninspected cars and trucks. I've been here for 14 years. The common is big enough to park vehicles inward to the trees on the bypass along the school and the church, and would supply the parking needed to alleviate the current problem of parking. There are enough businesses to help make this wood work, okay? You are all smart people. You know what the needs of the town are. I've been my share of construction jobs a lot of years. We always seem to get the problem solved. It's nice when people work together. This town is where I first lived when I got here. You people welcome me, and I have come to care for everyone I have met or will meet. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, Eddie Benoit. So, we're now talking about parking along the common, and as school hasn't started yet, it's going to be completely new for you two. And I think you've seen part of what we were talking about from the high school's perspective.
And based on our conversation too, I did put in I had to rewrite our teacher's handbook this summer, and one of the things I put in there was that parking is to be limited to our parking lots down below, and the staff should not be up here unless they're people just popping in for a short time. Otherwise, they should be down in the lower lots.
I mean, go
The
ahead.
people popping in, are they students or are the people popping in?
Sometimes they're parents, sometimes they're,
It would be nice to see all the students park in a student parking lot and then the parents and the
the
other
vast
people.
majority of students are down there. You get 1 or 2 that kind of grab here and think they can do what they want.
It's diminished. We've had,
It is
but it
diminished.
has diminished considerably.
We
It's
have a
not
towing
what it used to
company in town, Scott Brooks.
So the staff,
And
The staff-
sometimes you have a conference or something in the Dutton Gym, and then all this is parked. And we try to just keep a couple of spaces open, but it's not a chronic thing. Although have been some individuals who will park every day. By the 3rd or 4th day, they get a note on the windshield, or you guys get a call.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been a huge problem.
Yeah.
And as I said, in the last couple of years, it's actually diminished quite a bit. The policy that you guys have, put in has been effective for the most part. But there have been some new teachers, substitute teachers, that kind of thing. They see an open spot in front of the school, it's a lot easier than walking up the hill.
Well,
And on the left-hand side of that, where you start around the common from 35, I've watched that, there's 2 or 3. Some of them must be teachers at the age of them. They use them same spots, they'll start this fall, and it'll still be right there next spring.
Well, and I think as she was, alluding to the common, the church would like one designated handicap
No, they want
spot.
more than one.
Well, okay, they did ask that question 3 or 4 weeks ago. We did order some signs. There was kind of an informal decision that we would let the church put them out as they were using the church. And they do have senior luncheons up there for AA. I mean, it's after school's out that they have most of their functions, whether the kitchen or church on Sunday. But it opens up the question. The common is pretty limited, and it is packed with parking. And you do have to be able to get emergency vehicles through, and school buses, and kids are running back and forth all the time between the common and the church.
So, I mean, we'll deal with whether or not we want to change the parking structure up there. That's not really for you guys to have to be involved in. But I do think you need to be aware, particularly from the elementary school standpoint, once the staff and all the support personnel are there, starting from Route 30 and moving back up towards the school, when the church is trying to have like a senior meal on a Wednesday, there literally isn't any parking. And if they put these signs out, Townsend has no enforcement. We don't have any law enforcement that can actually go out and ticket people for parking in these handicap signs, or these handicap areas. So I'm not really certain what we could do short of making them permanently handicapped, and even that has its own set of limitations as to what we can and can't do with permanent ones. And I don't want to take away the parking that's there, because the majority of the time it's needed for somebody, be it the delivery truck for the food at the elementary school. I mean, that they take a big rig down there and they dump stuff down. That has to have access as well. The parking that they're talking about setting aside seems to be the parsonage driveway. Well,
Right at that door.
yeah, right at that driveway for the parsonage, and then back to the door where the little sidewalk leads up to the school. That was the one they originally asked for. So if we could make it so that the staff in particular is aware that there are issues, there's an aging population at the church, and they do need to be able to get in there. If we could make a conscious effort to keep that open, that would be
For
great.
the town to make a handicap spot, I mean, they'd have to basically address it as a matter of policy, but a handicap spot is a legal entity, and it's huge. I mean, it's the size of those 3 tables over there, and it has a curb, and it has to be wheelchair accessible and all that. What the church is talking about, or what is in mind right now, is somebody with a little roll-out sign that'll go out there for a couple hours and then back in as they need it, so to speak, and their times will be probably regular but irregular. But it'll be infrequent, and it won't be a permanent thing, it'll be as needed.
Be like a quasi-reserved spot.
Yeah, and to allow them to do that on a public road seems more than appropriate, given that there are 2 other businesses on that road, plus the school, plus, I mean, it is busy. It is busy, and it has to be kept open for plowing as well,
That's
sanding
very
and
true.
salting, so,
The,
sanding anyway.
yeah, with the high school, as Herb was alluding to, and we had this conversation when we met, you can always tell who's coming in for the high school, so they're coming in the wrong way. I don't know what the policy will be for the elementary school this year, if you're gonna continue to come in from the Route 35 side and go essentially one way, so the traffic stays coordinated, but the little and great kids are always going the wrong way.
There was one car that was parked there all year, right on the corner, going the wrong
It's
way,
an
on
easy
the wrong
way
side of the
to
road.
solve that, make it a one-way.
Well, we could certainly do that, we can also, wouldn't Jan have a fit if we made that a one-way? We've been had that, how many times do we have that discussion? Anyway.
But we'd have the big problem, we could make it one way, but you can't regulate Route 30.
Yeah,
Tire spikes.
Huh?
Tire spikes.
Yeah, Rob can regulate it.
so
Then you
basically,
go through Montpelier, you
so
might be old
basically,
age.
if you can make sure that the kids are aware that it is really restricted around the common, and if we have to reinstitute our parking policy and hire somebody, a constable for goodness sake, to come out and ticket them, they will start getting tickets. So as far as the teachers go for the elementary school, if they can be made aware that the church has some special needs, and the kids, it's just a no-no. I greatly appreciate it, because this is gonna ramp up. We've already had the same request from the Catholic Church, that's how we resolved that. We told them that on Sundays they could designate one of their spaces that way, but it didn't cut off parking for the hospital. But between the schools, the hospital, there's not much left here.
And for us, for our student life, especially with declining enrollment, it's not a function of space. It is a function, I think someone mentioned, laziness.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
wanting to walk up
That's
the
it.
hill.
Yeah,
Those of you
going
that
up
went
the
there and walked up the hill, you know what they're talking about. It's just that they just don't want to do it. But it's not a function of space, especially that dirt lot in front of the tennis courts now.
Yeah.
There's plenty of space down there.
Yeah.
They're gonna say that's another thing, you got a business right there, the dentist office needs parking too.
Yeah.
If you're coming in to get a tooth fix and you're there for 20 minutes or half hour, well, you don't wanna walk half a mile to get to the dentist office.
But that's the hospital's parking that in. Hospital staff.
Yeah, it's Rob, right? I know that Rob just brought up this one-way situation, and you sort of talked about how that's been brought up. I just came from Green Street School in Brattleboro, and for 35 minutes in the morning, that Green Street became a one-way. It went out in the morning, it became a one-way, so buses could get through, drop off. It might alleviate some of the parking, because I know that our busing is the same. So if kids are gonna be driving to school at the same time, if we turn that into a one-way, that might free up some space, and then in the afternoon, we just go out and put it out there during pickup time. It may not restrict the Route 30 access as much as making it permanent one-way, but for the initial drop-off and pickup time, it might swing things through. And Green Street, I mean, if you've been to Brattleboro, that's a major thoroughfare to downtown.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood really adjusts to it, and so do the parents and students in the buses.
It's a great idea.
That is
So
good.
we're gonna be out there in the morning anyways, greeting kids, saying hello. We have plenty of staff that are to be available. We can put it out there. We can also take it down. So it isn't somebody from the town doing it, but it's also gonna be someone from the school saying, hey, we're gonna do this.
We used to have in the old days, we used to have a tire that rolled out, and they actually closed Common Road during school hours. And that got to be an issue simply for the plowing and emergency vehicles, because with cars on both sides, there wasn't enough room with a sign in the middle of the road to be able to get a vehicle.
But there are creative solutions.
And I
it could
think
be
that's,
considered.
I
I
think
think
that's,
that's an excellent idea.
yeah, it certainly wouldn't hurt to do that, to let the parents know before school starts, to always come in to Common Road from the 35 side.
Yeah, the first time I actually came to Townsend, I pulled in the other way.
Oh, you did
And it was one of the things I asked. I mean, I walked in and I said, "Is this a one way?" And they're like, "Not really." But
No, you have to learn it, and then.
Yeah,
When you're giving you the finger.
But
you
since
wanna
the
start
school bus
to
goes
roll
one
No,
way,
it's a
most
drop off,
folks
so
they
pick up.
come in off the 35
and,
side.
and so now it's habitual for me to do that.
It's automatic, right?
What I would love to do if we are thinking about that sort of 35, 40 minutes in the morning and in the afternoon, I would love to start at the beginning of school. I know that we're in a real big time crunch. Next Wednesday is our first day. I don't know if we can expedite that process or get a sign that we have available somehow. So the parents are used to it, so the students are used to it.
Right, so we're not trying to
Yeah.
shift gears
Oh
midstream.
yeah, by the way, we're gonna shift you guys this time. Here it is, and these are things that we can put out as an announcement,
Right.
robocalls to the district. Hey, welcome everybody back to school. We can't wait to have you. Just want to remind you that's been new going on this year. It's now turning into a one-way. Please don't park there. It's something we can advertise.
You have people that come in off of Route 30, just swing right around right there in the mouth of the road, and drop off the kids too.
Yeah, but they can take and go an extra 100 yards and go around the loop.
Yeah, no, they're gonna, but I say, there is right now.
They use that
And they
as a turnaround.
also park down,
Fuel's
pull it
getting
down, park
tight.
to pick up kids in the afternoon.
Well, the one thing that we would have to do is pass a policy to change, or to limit that to one way. And we could get the policy, we could get the policy done, but it would also create a situation where we have to warn it, just like you guys do, and anybody who has issue with it would then have an appeal time. So we might be able to get that in place for the beginning of school, but it could always change.
Right. Another timeline. If we're looking at it as an extended timeline, it might be something that you could almost initiate during the start of winter. So now we come into plowing and salting and sanding. So now it becomes another way to sort of say, here's the start time. Now we're going to start plowing. Now we're going to start sanding.
Right. Well, hopefully
Now we
No
can start.
salting.
Yeah, right. Yes, that's right.
Let's just send an issue.
But there we have like a sort of another natural starting point too. So if we can't get through things quickly, then we give enough time for people to sort of.
Right, it does seem like it's still a reasonable, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, hey, just so you know,
Right, yeah.
winter's coming. Right.
Just make it legal, the minimum of 40 days.
Right, and even before that happens, you have power to communicate, this is what we're doing this year, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then, as the process goes through for the legal town,
Yep.
that'll just reinforce it. But I mean, there's really no, I mean, they're all waiting to hear from you, so they're gonna be like, oh, okay. And then you just send out another thing a week into it, just wanna remind you, we saw a couple cars come the other way, they don't wanna be those cars. I mean, I had to do that at Dover.
It's
you know?
not
I had my little orange slip stand and go out to the car, and I'd be like, do not do that. They don't want that. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think the town can go on that legal timeline, but I don't think it should stop you from communicating to the team.
So
Right.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with an amateur sign up there on cardboard that says that to the effect, even if it isn't a legal pronouncement, while the policy is being vetted.
Yeah, I mean, it can start as a school policy while we do our work.
Well, it's been an unofficial school policy for quite a few years,
Right.
quite frankly.
And it doesn't rise to your office, Bob, but I'll probably be, or somebody on the board will probably be with the highway department talking about this. We have a parking lot, and we have a right of way across over there. And I do understand that there is concern about traffic coming in and out between Dutton Gym and the high school in order to get back here. But we don't have deliveries made, it's only employees here. But if we can get employees back here, then it does relieve pressure on
I've
the
never
state
heard-
road.
I've
Well,
never
we
heard
had some real issues years past
Previous years, okay.
with that. And in developing that access road and this parking lot, we didn't really get into any engineering. It's a terrible intersection right down here at the bottom. And that's why people don't park out there, is they bottom out their cars. They hit the exhaust pipes or the fenders or something else. So maybe we can look into that at some point. But if we can better develop this out of here, better access, better security, a light for evenings and things like that, then we may be able to alleviate some of the pressure that's on front of this building. Our issues here are when we have taxes due next week. People come in, they come in all of a sudden, sort of, you know, get 4 or 5 people looking for a parking spot. Or election days, people come to vote. That's when it's nice to have as much of Route 30 open as possible. So.
Would it be, I mean, just not for my sake, but for your sake, as far as entrance and ease of access, is it possible to do something in between the buildings?
No,
driveway?
we have, there are lines between there, this is historic, and for some reason, and the state won't allow a curb cut off of Route 30 between the two, we've discussed that.
Yeah.
There's a small right-of-way available behind Mary Moberly's house here, so that we can get some propane in, but we've got septic lines out that side. And we do have this right-of-way. The problem with the right-of-way, again, is that intersection down. Look, it needs a culvert, it needs redesign a little engineering.
Yeah.
We can have that.
How many times in a year is that a problem? Town meeting?
What, parking?
Yes.
Anita parks out there right
No,
now.
I mean,
She's
as
the only
far
one
as,
who
like-
actually does park out and back. And I would, but it really wrenches the frame on a car. I mean, it wrenches the chassis.
Yeah, I've parked out there a couple of times and it's,
Yeah. It's a tough,
significant.
and it's a concern because I leave a couple times during the day, on occasion. It's hard to get out at noon, this time of year. You've got kids out there sitting on the hill having lunch, you got classes outside, people are walking back and forth. I'm not a nervous driver, but I certainly don't want to be in a position of having to, you know, beep a horn or wait for somebody or scare somebody or, God forbid, hit somebody. So I mean, it is a little congested up there, during the day. Anita's here basically before school starts or right after it starts. She's here after it's shut down, so it's not a problem to get in and out. But we could make better use of that parking back there if it was if the access was a little cleaner.
So is there anything else, anything else you gentlemen have for us? Questions?
No, I mean, I appreciate that both you and Bob took the lead on making sure that we kind of reestablish the relationship with you all. We're all fresh, and we're hoping this can be a fresh opportunity. I appreciate you sharing suggestions and, you know, the questions. We want to partner with you all, and
So you're saying, you're actually telling me we're not gonna have an adversarial relationship? Is that what you're trying to
Unless
say?
you want one, Kathleen.
You and I.
that doesn't benefit any of us, so why would we?
We want the kids to apprentice in government.
There you go.
Well, we talk a lot about recruiting and the fact that our governmental volunteers are getting older, and you know, it would be great to let kids get some exposure to local government. You know, like
Speak for yourself, I'm getting older.
Right. Well, in addition to the community service piece, we also have what used to be called the co-op program as well, which is now tweaked as called the work-based learning, but it's the same concept. You do internships and you get to know how you spend a semester doing something with someone else in a professional environment. And in fact, the same person who oversees that program is also the one who oversees the community service program, who's Terry Davidson-Berger, in the main office. So feel free to connect with her or with me if you're looking for kids to come in and do stuff like that. I think it'd be fantastic. And I also think I can mention to our social studies department as well. I was a social studies teacher when I was over here.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So I know, and I took a lot of pride in the fact that Charlie was sort of my mentor. So as far as like doctoring me up and getting me involved in a bunch of stuff at the town level, like we had kids come into meetings and come into events and those sorts of things and writing reports about it. And I like to get more of that back in the swing of things. So maybe we do a little presentation. For the social studies department, you guys could meet with them or whatever. But please do not hesitate to call, Craig. Anytime there's an issue, just give me a call. And if you can't get me, then you can talk to my administrative assistant. She's brand new. I stole her from Springfield. You may hear about this, Greg. I know. Her name is Sue Haskins, and so she's brand new up there. And of course, Patty is still over there. But just give us a call, and any issue before it becomes big, we will work to resolve it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
And good luck with your first day of school. Hopefully it'll be nice. And my grandson will not be in your office?
No, he won't.
once more into the breach.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
You take care. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Ouch, darn, my glasses in my arm. All right. Yeah, I'm not even sure where we are. So we still have to actually deal with this letter from the common because we're going to go into to Correspondence anyway?
We did order, and I believe you just paid for it, but I'm not positive on that. I didn't look at the bills that closely. We do have 2 handicap parking signs that should have arrived. I don't believe Kurt has given them to the church yet. And the understanding was he would just get them in and we would figure out how to distribute them later.
Then what are they looking for? 1, 2, 3, 10?
The original request was for 1.
Mhm.
That was a walk-in request, and it went to Anita, who
Mhm.
sent it back to Craig. This is a letter from someone I do not know,
Yeah.
who is now requesting more than 1,
Mhm.
as well as changing the
So
parking around.
more than 1 would be 2?
Well, it could be 5, I don't know, more than
We
1.
ordered 2, they're $20 and something a piece. We ought to have an extra if we don't give out 2, but in any case, Kurt didn't have me up there, so I asked him to order them, but I told him not to mount them on a post. We're not putting them out as a permanent.
Right.
We're not planting them in the ground. So we'll see, I mean, however you guys want to deal with that, and who you want to designate to receive them, or how we're going to get them there, if indeed that's going to happen. I don't know that, I'll leave it, Kathy's thought about this as much as anybody, so I'll leave it up to her.
The one thing I will say is that we had the same request from the Catholic Church, to, like I said, to designate on Sunday morning a spot in front of the church.
Yeah.
And we basically told the church we had no problem with them blocking off a space
Right.
for services, that they were welcome to do that, but that we needed this parking along Route 35 to be able to accommodate the hospital, the people going to the doctor's offices, et cetera, and the Catholic Church was fine with that. So I don't really.
It's not a sanctioned policy of the town. It's
Exactly.
not a command, it's not something where you guys
We don't
are
have to enforce it.
officiating anything with regard to
Right.
usage of the road.
Right.
But because the business, or the church in this case, has frontage on the road, you're extending them the authority to responsibly, during the period of time that they need access to the front of the building. If they were challenged, I think it would be challengeable, because the board
Certainly.
hasn't, right.
Right, because we haven't made a policy.
But as a matter of practical, it's a small town, people have to do what they have to do, and I think it's perfectly appropriate for them to have something like
And I don't see any,
a little sign that rolls out and says handicap
Right.
parking, that allows for an individual or 2 to pull in a van, or.
I don't see any reason for us to go through the rigmarole of legislating anything around that other than.
No, if you
Just
make the
allow-
common one way, obviously that's gonna be a policy, right? If you make it
Right.
one way during school hours or something like that, that's a policy.
That's gonna
Right.
create havoc.
Well, you're gonna have to have dates and times and things like that. It's gonna be a complicated little, it's simple enough in theory, but it's gonna get into the weeds pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
We
that's-
don't drive down Old Route 30 anymore. We take New Route 30.
Do we?
Things can change,
Okay, good.
pretty sure.
So basically, would someone like to make a motion about the signs, they're at the highway garage, we know they're there. Would someone like to make a
I
motion?
believe they're
about-
there, I haven't seen them there, but I
I
believe.
thought we had one.
Well, we got the bill, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they've been delivered. It's pretty straightforward.
So somebody would like to make a motion about providing the church with a sign that they can put out for their different events?
Did you have a draft of one? Was there anything on that? No, okay.
Yeah, I would, go ahead.
My only thought is that the signs are gonna go out, and they're never gonna get brought back in.
Well, again, there's no enforcement, and I think the response, and this is what we told the Catholic Church as well, to the church when they received the sign, is the fact that Townsend doesn't have any type of enforcement.
Right.
I mean, you can put up all the signs all you want out there, and quite frankly, if somebody wants to park there, there's nothing.
Not a whole lot we can do.
But if you pass an ordinance or a policy which restricts parking at the common, for example, to 2 hours, then you can enforce that, as long as you can call law enforcement and have, there was an issue of the Bronco or whatever, the Explorer.
All right,
parking
parked on the sidewalk.
I called state police that night, they came that night, they talked to somebody and it got moved. It can be done that way, where you do have an actual rule or regulation. With regard to handicap from the church, no, you can't enforce that, because they're doing it on their own, and basically with their own signs, even if they borrow them from us. But they're only doing it, and hopefully they're not gonna drive them into the ground. It's just a temporary thing for the few hours that they need.
Well, I think
those
it needs
signs.
to be made
That needs to be
clear.
understood, right.
Right.
Then it needs to be supervised, the signs need to be brought in when they're done.
So would anybody like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to have the church receive 2 signs to put out at the end of their walkway for handicap parking. And as long as they pick them up when they're done, then get them established before, I mean, if there's something going on at noon, you can't expect the school to all of a sudden be dialed in right at noon when they go out.
I agree.
How about if we draft a letter to go with the signs?
Oh, there's-
I think
That
that
spells it
that's
out, but I
fine,
mean,
yeah.
this motion, the board can consider at
Yeah,
this
like
point.
if they
But it goes
expect it
to
to be
the-
open at noon, you
Is it-
need to have it at the beginning of the day put out
Right.
and then removed or
These are
whatever
building
goes
number
on.
eight.
Right, yeah, they can't move
These are
in and out every
building
10
number
minutes.
8A.
I mean, I think we can bullet point some,
Yeah, some guidelines for their
some
use.
guidelines for them, signed by the chair, here are your signs, you know,
Yes.
thanks for the request, and, we're,
Grandparents stuff, all the place up on the back road.
I'm sorry.
My sister owns it now, I guess.
I was just saying that rather than try to hammer it all out into one motion, that we write a letter, you know, signed by you that attends the signs,
Right.
the delivery of the signs, so which provides instruction.
So they
And also we'll take them back if this becomes abusive or,
So are we going to do 2 or are we going to only do 1? Like I said, we only allow the Catholic Church to block off 1 space. Do we want, is this
If you
more?
go over there and you look where their entrance comes out,
Mhm.
theoretically 2 would fit pretty nicely in there, in between the parsonage driveway and what the school's doing. There's enough area, I think, there.
Okay, because you
One
got,
on each side as you come out. So that if more than one person came that's handicapped, one to the right of the entrance, one to the left as you're,
of the
approaching the
parsonage.
yeah.
The walkway goes
Well,
into.
not the parsonage, of the church entrance.
Oh, okay, so the church entrance, okay. Well, like I said, those get parked in really fast, so.
but that it can't be left
They
there.
wanna be
permanently,
really
and
fast
to
with
respect
it.
other people's rights to use the road and all that, yeah.
All right, so-
I would move that we direct Craig to draft a letter.
Rob's got a motion on the,
No,
the church
sorry.
receive handicap signs to go with a letter that we'll have Kathy sign
Right.
or something.
Is
We'll-
there anybody who'll second that?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of providing the church with 2 signs and a letter, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, so we'll get that taken care of. Let's see, then we have, I've turned over my letters, so nothing's in order anymore. We have a letter from Ross Evans. And this, I had hoped to be able to have the road foreman here, because it is actually addressed to him. Dear Selectman, Road Foreman Craig Hunt, please be aware that you have dug a drainage ditch across the legal right-of-way to the 44-acre lot that I own. This is the only way getting to the lot, and I need to maintain access. Okay, see the circle on the attached map. Also, I've not heard from you regarding the road dirt creating the beach in the fire pond. You were to investigate this runoff and get back to me. Please make both of these issues a matter of record, of the matter of minutes, and let me know your thoughts and possible actions. Ross Evans.
This is a common thing. I work on a bunch of different land here, and it's like you jump in and out of the freaking ditch to get into the land, because there's holes poked in and freaking drainage shit going on, it's nuts. And I haven't even looked at it, but I'm sure it's probably some blown up shot.
Well, I believe,
Yeah, but like with that lot right there, did he get an access permit?
What's an access permit got to do with taking and making so you can't get access on your land?
Look, there's a place up there, that's the one I'm thinking of. That ditch has been there since the highway was taken over by the town.
I'm not-
And if he applies for an access permit, he can put a goddamn culvert in and get in there.
Well, that's
Well,
fine.
we need-
But
we need to
what's
have-
to say if a guy wants to go cut 2 trees on his land, that he needs to go get a friggin' excavator to get across it to get in there?
well,
We
my,
need to have somebody take a look at
I mean, do we
this
need to
and,
put a 20-foot
The
culvert?
ditch where I think it is, it's on town land too. Because there's a 50-foot right of way up there.
50 foot, yeah. Yeah,
top of
I
the,
know it is, because I was in on it when it was taken over.
yeah.
well, again, I believe, I don't know what happened with the fire pond, Has anybody been up?
No, I
At the last
I
minute.
gotta get a hold of, Brian Smith, and see what the state going.
Well, that was when Ally came, and that was you and the fire department and Kurt were gonna go look at it. And then Kurt went up on his own and.
Kurt said he replaced the culvert.
Well, that
which
was
he
that was
thought-
last spring. He said that the issue was from the culvert, maybe.
That's what, yeah, that's what I remember.
Ally, when she dropped this off, said, no, that's not the issue. Somebody needs to come and take a look at it. But she dropped this off for a while, so she dropped it off. Anyway, and she circled this, I haven't got a clue on it. But she said there's a ditch across an access, and I said, okay, well, we'll give the letter to the board. But somebody needs to go up and take a look, because either Kurt doesn't know what he's looking at. I mean, this is addressed to him as well. He hasn't seen this
I
yet.
don't know what the state said when the guy was in there, so I'll have to get a hold of Brian and see if we can make connections. That's what we told her that night here.
Yeah.
You better be doing it because Brian told me this morning
Alright,
that their grant is coming through to put a dry hydrant up there.
alright. I'll get a hold of him.
Good time to call, just a little after 7 in the morning.
And I'm gone at 7.
Huh?
I'm gone at 7.
How are you?
Well, all I know is that there now
But I'll get a hold of
Now
him.
you got a ditch.
we went from one issue to now 2 issues. So
Maybe we
can,
can put some grass seed in.
I was gonna say, can we find out what's going on with the pond?
Yeah.
I think the road's pretty close to 50 feet wide there anyways.
And can we see what we're talking about, at least with this ditch into the, is it a new ditch, an old ditch, a pre-existing ditch, what the devil it is? Because we can't make any determinations if nobody knows what we're talking about.
Right.
So,
Well, these things have a way of lingering and escalating at the same time, so.
Which one goes faster? The Linder or the?
Well, we first need to
The
get,
escalation goes faster.
we need to figure out if Kurt just put a ditch in there, or if it's been there forever.
well, again, until somebody goes up on the hill and
Well,
finds
until
out.
you can ask Kurt, and I don't know that
Right.
he's gonna know without asking Bob, because it's Bob's route. I mean, you know what I mean, you need,
Right.
it's almost easier just to drive.
We need the highway department to look at it.
It's almost easier to
first.
drive a quarter mile past Kathy's house, go look for yourself, than it is to ask the question and wait 3 days for an answer.
I wish it was only 3 days instead of 2 weeks, which is now what we're
Well,
going to
4.
wait.
Well, this is 40 now with the
Mhm.
bond, but yeah, this is gonna go another 2, and it being said.
All
Anyway,
right, but
um,
I would really appreciate if somebody would find out what's going on with all these different departments and have some coordination, at least take one of the issues off the table
Yeah.
before we add another 2. Okay, then, so we do that. Okay, so the Governance Advisory Committee, you all got a copy of the letter, now I've got to find mine. From the Governance Committee,
there was a workshop last Thursday. Last Thursday?
Yep.
No, it was a week
No.
ago.
Yeah,
It was a week ago Thursday. Huh? 2 weeks? It was right after the last meeting.
Second
Right,
Thursday.
right.
So, yeah,
Right.
because on Monday, there was an article in the Reformer.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
and
Correct.
that was, yeah.
No, I'm just trying to
All
turn
right.
history.
It says, the Governance Committee and the Select Board recently held a workshop to discuss the committee's report. As a follow-up, we'd like to summarize briefly our findings and suggestions. A complete copy of our findings is available to anyone who wishes to read it on the unofficial town website and also in the town clerk's office. Simply put, the current method of administering the town is not working. The deficiencies outlined in the report lead to an inability to get things done and the waste of taxpayer money. We believe the town needs to decide how to address the problems we have identified and implement a concrete program for change. As a first step in the process, we suggest that the Select Board ask a representative from VLTC, Vermont League of Cities and Towns, to conduct an informal session on some of the options available. The approximate cost of this would be $410. One of the options that may be explored is the move to a town manager form of government. A change to a town manager can only be initiated through a petition from the citizens of the town. It is imperative, therefore, that we do our best to encourage the public to attend. It is our hope that a presentation from VLTC will help clarify our options and provide a roadmap for moving forward. In addition to clarifying the process, we hope that the VLTC will be able to help the town plan for the budgetary needs of both implementation and future costs. Once the date is set, we recommend that a town-wide mailing be sent to invite citizens of Townsend to participate in the decision-making process that will determine the future of our town. And it was submitted by Joanna Snelling, Al Harmon, and Will Bissonnette.
What happened to Moriarty?
He
resigned.
I read
Back
the-
in June,
I read the resignation letter.
even though you wouldn't know it from the article in the Reformer.
So, there's basically, it's now on the table that they recommend we have VLTC come down and do essentially an informational or a seminar, or whatever you want to call it, on the types of governance that are available to the towns. Does anybody have any questions or suggestions, or where would you like to go from here? We now have a recommendation, not of a form of government, but as a next step.
Well, Will?
I honestly, I think we should look to VLCT to come down, help us explain, have them explain to the voters what we're talking about. Because I think there's,
They haven't got a clue.
there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it animosity, but there's some tension around these kinds of decisions, and it's difficult. It's in talking to other people from other towns. It's difficult, and I think if we have someone from the outside who's more familiar with the processes going forward, I think it'd be helpful to let the voters make an informed decision. So I would feel that we should probably do it as quickly as is possible, so that we don't keep delaying. We want to be able to make a decision at town meeting, if not before.
Well, making a decision
Well,
before town meeting means especially one meeting.
Especially one.
And you're, time-wise, with the warning requirements and whatnot, even
Right,
going into
right.
October, you're starting to really push.
Yeah, I agree.
So does anybody have any suggestions as to how to move forward?
I think we should, first we need to contact the LCT, see what their timeline is to
Well,
set it
I
up.
think the first thing you need before we get to that point is that we need a motion on the table.
Make a motion to get a hold of the LCT.
Discuss governance structures,
Yeah.
okay,
Second.
all right? Any further discussion? Okay. Then I just want to point out one of the recommendations here is the townwide mailing. And we did look back through the bills this morning, and it costs roughly $200 to do something comparable to the mailing we did with the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be $410 roughly for VLTC plus
200 for
another $2 for the mailing, and
A day's work.
I'm not sure that you're going to have the same volunteers that are going to photocopy, fold, mail, and sort that you had the last time. So you need to look at potential labor costs in there as well, because we might end up paying some.
Bob Tebow just said he's got a whole bunch of people that were just itching to do community service.
They haven't gone to school yet.
Next Wednesday.
Just wait till
Until
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Bring
But
them over to the cafeteria.
See if they know how to run a loader and a grader.
there you go, you just go for the broke. Maybe they put the glass.
A shovel and a stone rake is
You
all.
don't need glass, they're young.
And they paint one-way signs too.
Yeah.
But, I just want you to know that there is more involved than just that 410 and trying to
Yes.
get the word out to this. There's a lot of assumptions made that all this happens magically in the background, and it doesn't.
Right.
So, having VLTC come down is fine. What kind of a date would you like to shoot for? How soon, when? We've got a special,
You've got a public hearing on the 26th, you've also got bids to look at for Bridge 42, probably on the 26th as well. I'd say September is close, but I'd say if you could do this first week of October or something, then you're not getting, you're not getting into Thanksgiving, Christmas. And that's the big
Right,
issue.
and then-
If you don't do it then, you're gonna really ought to wait until the end of January for
October's just
to
a
do it right before, town meeting. But if you wanna do it this year, I would recommend October is probably, well, then you're early November, but as soon as you get into November, you're getting into cold weather, holidays, icy roads. And you're looking for, 300 people to show up or better.
Well, then I'll remove my motion from the table.
Because you can't get enough people?
Well, I mean, if we're just too busy for it, then I guess.
Well,
we're
no,
busy.
I'm just saying for a public hearing, I mean, you can hold, you can have a meeting
My
anytime. No, you can have a meeting anytime, I'm just saying that if you look at your nights, the select board meeting nights, to kind of dovetail with it, the 26th is gonna be busy. And to get this coordinated and get the announcements out and give people a little time, I think that you're looking at September.
October.
Well, I think you're looking at late September or
Early
October. If you
October.
don't, right, if you do it on a Thursday night or something, you can do it anytime you want. And as you said, it depends a little bit on the NCT schedule.
I will
But I think
contact,
that they're gonna need a briefing too, as to what they're doing when they come down. This doesn't, I mean, they don't have a package. They don't come with a book and read.
right,
I think they're gonna need to talk to somebody down here to find out, A, why you're hiring them to do this, what are the issues on the ground, what is it that you want them to push? What are the questions that they're gonna be asked? You don't want them to stand up and not be able to answer the question.
right.
As to why the finance office isn't working, or why we haven't been able to successfully have an audit,
Mhm.
you know? So, I mean,
Is there any further discussion?
I
So,
do think there's lead time involved, but anyway, you could do it.
do we want to look at toward the end of September, beginning of October? I'd greatly
Yeah.
appreciate it if you'd avoid from Columbus Day to the end of October, because I don't know if I can make it.
Right. Yeah, I
November's
think-
tight for me. I got deer season, harvest moon, Thanksgiving.
I have to make enough money to pay my taxes for the next year, so, you know, that's when I make my income is in October.
Alright,
I
so
have to work.
let's shoot for end of September, latest first week of
Yeah, I
October.
think we should all take October off.
Well, that'd be perfect for me. So if we can talk to them and see if
I will
they
contact
can
them this
schedule
week.
something, that means that as soon as we have a date, there needs to be notification come back so that the flyers can be made up, they can be sent, they can be, and it's not last minute rush, hurry.
Motion on the table.
Well, I understand, it's
No,
on the
okay.
table. I'm just trying to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
that we get the information that we need.
Yep.
So that if we pass this motion to bring them down, that we know what has to happen after that happens. Okay, so, anyway, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of having VLPC come down and do a presentation on forms of governance for towns, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So if you could get back to Craig with that potential list of dates, we'll see
Yep.
what we can get sent out in the mail. All right. So then, moving on to old business, town report committee volunteers.
Cynthia offered to be a volunteer.
Cynthia Davis.
Cynthia volunteered, yep. Which was,
And did you have somebody?
I did, yeah, I have to get his email. We work together, but I keep missing him. So
Okay,
I keep forgetting to get his email.
what was the name, just so Craig?
It's Brandon, begins,
Okay, you get back to me.
Yeah,
Send me-
okay.
Send me an email, I don't
I'll
want
send
to,
you an email.
I don't want to misspell it or put it in public.
Okay, so that's two people. It would really be helpful if we could get at least one or two more.
Three is minimum, should be at least,
Mhm.
and depending on how the workload shows.
Technically, at this point in time, the numbers are ready to go from a finalized standpoint. They're not necessarily in the same format that we're used to seeing in the town report. So somebody's gonna have to put some time into getting all those different format pieces done.
Mhm.
And it's gonna take a while, so we really need to beat the bushes to see if we can find 2 or 3 more people who'd be.
Well, the numbers part of it, we'll have those out, we can put those together. I can do, she's never done it, I can do that. I mean, it takes, it's a solid day's work, and then you gotta recheck it the next, but it is doable. I think we're in pretty good shape, with the order of the numbers.
That also means that the notices have to go out to the different entities to get their reports in. as well.
Right.
Yeah, still only
Yes.
August, but it is coming up.
So someone needs to begin to think about,
But it also depends on what you're gonna put in there too.
right, exactly. Then you start planning that piece. All right, then moving on to, oh dear, where'd those go? To the errors and omissions.
You added
Oh, did I?
transfer station.
I'm sorry, I did. You're correct. Transfer station, I just wanted to let you know that I worked in the town clerk's office while the clerk was on vacation for a day, and I had a Townsend resident come in and ask me why the recycling bins were zip tied. And wanted to know if that was because of the bear, and I said no. The individual then turned around and told me that they had cut the zip tie because they just assumed it was to keep the bear out, so they could get in and put their recyclables in. And while they were there, 3 or 4 other people came in and were doing it as well. So I think we need to somehow get the word out. I don't know how to do this. That
It's only open when the
Exactly.
attendant is there.
it absolutely, and the public needs to be as diligent about watching for offenders as we are.
Mhm.
And the fact that, quite frankly, if somebody's going out and cutting the zip ties, they need to make note of it. They need to let someone know. They need to walk up to them and say, you know, it's closed, you're not supposed to be doing this. And that doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, I did order a banner, 4x6, it is posted on the wall, I wound up on a ladder, put in 6 hooks and wired it on there, which lists the hours that it's there. There is a new stop sign out there on a post that fabricated over the weekend, and it says closed, stop, this is closed. And there's another banner coming that says Townsend residents by permit only. That'll also go on the wall, it's also a 4-foot-by-6 foot vinyl banner. So, I mean, more notice we can't really do, and I know the highway crew, when they're there, I know Bob was interfacing, I think Kurt's talked to a few people, but are trying to eliminate people coming in during off hours. So, hopefully, little by little, we'll get this cured up. But no, people shouldn't be using the facilities when it's not open, and they shouldn't be cutting the zip ties on the recycling bin doors.
Oh, the zip tie's only on one side, so they can still put it on the other side.
Okay, I didn't
And the
realize.
reason for that, so they can push it back and it won't all come out, too.
Well, I think, I don't know.
I think he was,
No, at the end of the day.
They've been zip
I think
tying all
zip
6
tying all
of
of
them.
them.
Oh, that might be.
it depends, sometimes we get dumpsters that don't have doors on them, you know? Some of those bins don't have a sliding door on them.
Well, I was mowing my lawn Saturday. I didn't think of it time enough. 'Cause I just see a pickup go by, but it had a whole pickup load of cardboard. I think it was a commercial outfit, it had to be with that amount of cardboard.
Again, and unless there is some kind of self-policing going on out there, we have 2 choices. We either staff it 24/7 with someone with the authority to give tickets and or some type of authority,
Yeah, but-
or we just be done.
We have somebody hired, like I told you the other day, the attendant was there, somebody from Grafton followed me right down, pulled right in, and was dumping their stuff. So if we have an attendant that's not gonna take care of it, we can put up signs and all sorts of literature and everything else, and we're throwing a snowball in the
I don't disagree, but it's by permit only, and if somebody isn't checking to make sure there's a permit on the car, or with the individual, then that's a problem of the attendant, and that has to be noted and taken care of somehow or other.
But a lot of the
But I didn't
things,
see, this particular vehicle, I didn't see no tag or anything on it, you know, hanging on the window.
Kathy was out there for a couple of days yelling at people that were pulling in that were not only out of hours, but didn't have their tag displayed. I've talked to a few people, I know Steve's been out there.
When you yell at these people, do they pick their stuff out of it and bring it back with them?
no, they just say, sorry, you didn't know.
I mean, it's,
How's it working?
I still believe we have to fence it in.
Or quit it entirely.
Yep.
I mean, what we're doing clearly isn't working, right? So
it isn't. I don't know that the recycling is contaminated, and I don't know that a lot of people are using it from out of town. I do think that the honest people are being honest and trying pretty hard to keep it clean and do the right thing, and more people are not. More people are getting used to the fact that it's only open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But I'm not there, and I don't know, as Bob would, or Kurt would, or now that Ed's back, how many people pull in during the day. And whether they're actually paying attention or whether they're talking to these people. If it's chronic and they're dealing with 10, 15 people a day, you'd think that would come to an end if they're dealing with them effectively. If they're not going out and talking to them, then I think that's wrong. I think they should, because I do think this is curative. You're always gonna have a few people, but hopefully it's not. I don't know, I don't think it's, we've been paying straight freight on the recycling. It hasn't been contaminated to a point we've paid an upcharge at this point. I can't tell you on the tonnage whether, because we haven't finished the floor yet, whether we're getting.
Right, whether we're, right,
It's light,
seems like it.
it is,
It's what?
the tonnage is light.
But I don't know, I know we have a continuing investment in trying to make this work.
Yeah, right.
And,
Well, again,
Bob made up a sign out of cardboard with the magic marker that he got at WW, and that was fun, and it's in a cone, but it kind of fell apart in the rain. And I put together something permanent out of metal, but it's not my job, and we did that. And hopefully that'll be effective, and as I said, I put up one banner, I've got another one coming, but it's up on a 20-foot ladder and screwing stuff into walls. I don't feel like doing that on a hot afternoon. I'm getting a little too old for this kind of thing. But the highway department should be looking at their yard and making sure that it's closed when it's closed, when they're around. Now that, they're all back at work, hopefully that'll take place. Arnold needs to be absolute at this. They have this opportunity until October. Once the weather changes, I don't expect him to come out of the shack, but right now, there shouldn't be anybody pulling in through the while he's.
Why don't you expect him to come out of the shack when the weather changes?
Because it's cold out and it's slippery and all of
Do we
that.
know
He's not
that?
coming, to the extent that he's not coming out now. You know what I mean? Now is the time to nip it in the bud. Now is the time to get people to behave
Right.
the way they're supposed to behave.
well,
And as I said,
that's the point. Quite frankly, everybody needs to get people to behave. Whether it's the person I was speaking to in the town clerk's office that was cutting the zip ties, or whether it's one of us driving by and seeing people with unloading in the back of their truck, it just,
We're all kind of in this together.
we're either gonna make it
and
work
I'm
or
I'm
not.
dealing with it on a daily basis. I'm getting tired of dealing with it because it's up and down. It's either we're in it for good or we're out of it altogether. And it's I don't know what more to do short of go sit out there. And I don't have that much to say on it.
So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that was one of the pieces that came in when I was working in the clerk's office, that in fact, it is recognized, and
They're going out there with scissors.
yeah, they're definitely taking sharp implements out there to cut the zip ties. So, all right, then moving on to the errors and omissions. We have 2 of them. We're gonna deal with the easy one first. And that was the one on property 020160000. That was
The one that came in first on the
Yeah.
725.
Yeah, it was
Which it didn't. came on
purchased
the
by Medicine from Tarbell. And basically what happened here is it didn't get split off and one parcel put on as inactive. So it was billed twice for the same acreage. Okay? So I would entertain a motion to approve an error and omissions on that particular piece of property.
So moved.
Well, you have to state it, so it's property number 02016-000. Because they don't tell us what the appropriate acreage is. They didn't give us that information.
You
But-
approve that an error has been made. They've corrected the billing on the grant list.
Yeah.
0260.
All right, so the motion's been made, was there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on that one? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the error and omissions on parcel 02016-000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Now, the next one's not so clean. Evidently, a tax bill went out, and at some point in the near past, some of the acreage from that parcel was sold off separately and separated from the main parcel. It was not deducted from the original parcel. And so the listers have now corrected on the working grand list. There's a tax bill out currently for the inappropriate acreage. And then the landowner is asking for an adjustment for 2 years because she didn't notice the error. Now, we can do an errors and omissions. Yes, we could do an error and omissions on this year's, the current tax bill, by acknowledging the fact there was an error made on the amount of acreage. The select board does not have the authority to abate taxes from previous years. We just don't have that authority.
You wouldn't set that precedent even if you did. I wouldn't think.
I mean, this is like the third time since I've been on the board, somebody wanted taxes returned to them, and we don't have that authority. That's the Board of Abatement. So, are there any questions as to what's actually going on here, or are you pretty well satisfied with what's happened?
So what happened is they sold 7 3/4 acres.
A couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago. And they didn't notice that the tax bill has been wrong for the last
That's correct.
2 years?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause over a year ago, they put a building on, a house on it.
So the taxes have been paid on the property by somebody. In fact, they were double paid by one individual because it was apparently
Because it was
double
tax, right.
Right.
That was my next question, is
Right.
the
And the
smaller
listers,
parcel also
the
being
listers now have that corrected. You guys accept it, make sure the grant list is correct. And to the extent that you can offer some tax relief this year to the property owner, because of the error, then you do that. You can't open up previous years. As Kathy says, that's a different form of government. Everybody wears a different hat on that.
Right.
That's what the judge did.
And that takes a different letter than this one.
To a different board.
To a different board.
Somebody want to make a motion to either accept or not?
I make the motion we correct it for this year, which is all the authority we have.
Okay, so the motion is to accept as an error and omissions parcel number 09025-000, which is the correction in the number of total acreage associated with that parcel. Somebody want to second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the E&O on parcel 09025-000 for this tax year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So, you need to talk.
This year only.
You need to talk to the listers, tell them it's this year only, and you also, might suggest or.
Contact Mrs. Phoenix.
Mike,
and let-
No, that is not our job to contact Mrs. Phoenix.
No, that's my job. He was,
Right.
that's the board of listers chair. He will let the parties know that.
All right, so employee evaluation form, you had 2 of them that you were putting in your box?
We had 2 at the last meeting, one well provided, one I found online. The other one that I believe I gave you just this week, if that's correct, is an actual Town of Townsend one from 2010, I'm gonna say. Town of Townsend Performance Appraisal System. It predates my actually having a computer by the time. It goes back to my old home computer. But anyway, I found it and I printed it out. In addition to which there's just for whatever, your information, highway infrastructure study guidelines out of the Orange Book, and there was made up a number of years ago, highway project worksheets, which is just a formatted sheet for listing things that need to be done. But anyway, this Town of Townsend, I didn't look it over, Town of Townsend Performance Appraisal System is another one. This was made up for this town, so you can you can look at that one as well.
So the question becomes, does anybody have any preferences? I mean, I don't know how long we can string this out.
We can't, and I like the MIT.
You like the
Okay.
idea?
Yeah,
So
I
make a
like the
motion to that
MIT.
effect.
Okay, you want me to put Town of Townsend's name on the top of that and run that?
I will make a motion that we use the MIT Performance Development Evaluation Form as Townsend's new performance evaluation form.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of using the MIT soon-to-be Townsend Performance, what was it? What?
Appraisal.
Evaluation? Appraisal?
Evaluation.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. All right, so that takes care of that. All right, Glenn, we're kind of rolling down here. Do you have something you need to speak to us about?
No, I think I was on the agenda. Was that?
For fire department issues?
No, I was just simply coming in. We had our annual vote and was gonna let you know.
Yeah, I saw the results of the annual vote. Congratulations.
So you guys are all aware, so.
Well, I don't know if they.
Well, the rumor mill has made everybody aware, but if you'd like to officially announce it, yeah, I mean,
Did you want to,
Glenn is now the new fire chief.
did you want to speak to Glenn about the potential of going up to take a look at that fire farm?
Was Brian the one that was in on that, dry hydrant business
Up at Evans's.
Yes.
last year?
No, sure, yeah, have a seat. Glenn
I
Beatty,
gotta get a hold of him.
Beattie.
You need to
Set
get.
up a time so we can go look at it, 'cause you gotta let us know everything.
Okay. All right, the last I heard was that everything was a go on that, but.
On the dry hydrant it is, but she's had some sediment issues coming in. And that was something that the board was gonna work out with the highway department and try to coordinate with somebody from the fire department to see if that was a chronic issue or ongoing kind of thing, or if there was anything curative that the town needed to do
Okay.
regarding the pond and the sediment issues in the pond, since it seemed to be coming from town land.
And did you, I know you just had your meeting, did you by any chance square up the fire department with their final money?
How much do they owe the town of Townsend? No, not yet, sorry.
Okay,
Just kidding. Yeah, I think when Lori was here that morning, I do believe that Elaine, she and I went over it the day before, and she talked to Lori. I think we have that set. We'll find out pretty quick this week.
well, it was pretty close after the Scott packs came in, so it was pretty close.
Well, it was, yeah, right, in terms of setting aside a reserve amount
Right.
and in using that reserve toward the Scott tax and having the remainder, Joe took care of the remainder on that. How that all got squared up in the books, I'm not entirely sure, but I know it's clean and I know it's done and there is no reserve account because it's been used. But what the paperwork trail is, I haven't seen yet.
Okay, so evidently you're clear.
You got Scott tax, they're paid for.
Okay. Anything else that, anybody has any questions for the fire department while we got the chief here?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Or condolences, one of the two.
No, I'll have Brian get a hold. Who do you want Brian to get a hold of?
Probably Irv.
Irvin? Okay. And I guess Brian is your works with the 911.
The 911 coordinator for the fire department, yeah. And he's been working with the 911, Carol Mills, and to get that all logged in, and Charlie too, I guess they've been up in the hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. No, that's all I wanted to do, and just say if there's anything we can do or need from us, then let me know, and
Well, it was, I will compliment Brian. When this whole issue of the Scott packs came up, I got a call at home from Brian explaining what had happened and what the needs were and whatnot. And we were able to kind of figure out a way to present it so everybody could understand clearly what had happened. And that was, having that line of communication open with the fire department is very helpful. It really is. Because we can't operate in a vacuum. We can't know if you've got a need.
Right.
For example, your roof. If your roof has to be replaced, we have to know. That type of thing. So if we can keep the lines open between the fire department and the select board, that'd be great. But especially as we get into budget, you know, this year, if you've got anything special, any special needs.
Furnace work, digging up tanks, those kinds of things.
Yeah, all those fun things that just get, you know? So yes, we'd appreciate keeping that line open.
Yep, no, we can definitely work on that, keep it going. Like I said, if something does come up, then you know how to get a hold of me, so.
I know exactly where you're
Yeah, get a hold of me and we'll see what we can do.
That'd be great, thank you very much.
That's all I had,
Thanks.
if you've got nothing else.
No,
You
we should be
guys, I'm
good.
sorry to intrude on you.
No,
Yeah,
we're
I
fine.
don't know.
We were just getting into icky stuff.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
actually, your rescue's on this list, do you want to spend?
So now might be a good time to leave. All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn.
Sure. All right, you guys have a nice night.
You too.
Have a good evening.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay, so the town common use policy, there isn't a draft yet. I think we need to decide, if we're going to put something together, we need to decide what the salient points would be of that. We can always flesh it out later if we have to.
Right.
But as of tonight, it seemed to be very clear that we're going to have one-way traffic, or at least the consensus seemed to be, one-way traffic, at least during school hours. You know, I think we need to address the excessive salt on the common, you know, because of all the different trucks that are turning around there.
Yeah, but that ain't just that simple.
What?
We went through this when they built that addition on.
To
They
what?
had it so people couldn't get through that, and the state guy said, you can't do that, we'll be taking your money away.
What are we adding? What was the addition on? The school?
Yeah,
You can't make it one way? Is that what you're saying?
not without, you might not be able to without going through the state.
How's that a
Well,
state
we're not-
highway?
We're not talking about making it permanently one way, it's an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. Just for
Or what
school
about,
pickup and
like-
drop off.
During the day,
Right.
I mean,
When the lights are flashing.
No, try it. Worst you do, lose your money.
Well, I'm just more concerned about, you know,
I
that.
think they let us know before they lost their money, I think, and said, hey, you can't do that.
I mean, are you concerned about the state trucks turning around there? Is that what your concern is,
No,
on the common?
no, that ain't what I was thinking of. When we had measured the mileage, and I went with the guy from the state, and they had it so that they weren't supposed to go by the building while it was working. And he told them they had to take the fence, the snow fence down that was there, and leave that road open. That was a public highway and they could not block it off.
Well, but we're not blocking it off, there's a difference.
No, and I say, try it, it ain't, the worst you can do is get
We're
a
not
notice,
gonna close the road, just make it limited.
get a notice from them, that's all.
Make it limited one way for an hour and 15 minutes or something, morning, afternoon, during pickup and drop off.
Because I know we get paid for that road, but it's not a state highway.
A little bee fell off the flower, hit the ground, you know, I'm looking up.
But we're also talking about.
I mean, during the day, when that common has got cars in, I wouldn't drive it as an open road anyway.
No.
I mean, it's too long.
I don't either.
It's,
You'd be surprised how many
I
do.
was just about to say, you would be surprised at the people that just turn around there aimlessly
Yeah.
for no
Yeah, come up,
real
make the
reason
loop
besides
around.
there's a spot to turn around.
What's this no through road mean here? I'm going to the hospital up this way, yeah, right.
I blame the GPS. Turn left.
No, I say, worth a try.
Not trying anything, all you're doing is you're just saying it's a one-way, you just want the traffic to go in one direction when they're dropping off kids. And you can't bark for emergency vehicles, and I assume you can't bark for the state vehicles either, if it's, you know.
Right.
and I wasn't talking about barring it for the state. I
Oh,
was,
no, no.
I was asking
If it's a
about
black
stopping
Suburban
the
with
salt.
blacked out windows, it can go wherever.
Right,
it
could we
wants.
ask the state not to salt as they
Oh,
turn
yeah.
around?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we
I don't
can
think they
certainly talk to.
You cannot do that with a public highway.
Do what?
tell them they can't turn around in it.
No, I'm not saying they
turn
can't turn
around,
around.
turn the salter.
I'm saying just turn the salter off.
Yeah.
Turn the spreader off while you're turning around.
That's different.
Okay, so is that something that that we're?
Well, I think you need to discuss it on common policy. Hopefully, we can get a little committee together to discuss that. With regard,
still have to have
with
the-
regard to the road,
Salient points.
with regard, and come up with the salient points. With regard to the road, making it one way, I think that's relatively easy to do, and to put it into a policy and warn it, and see what happens.
Right.
If somebody agrees it, then we have to go through the whole procedure of it, which is fine,
Right.
which is what I said to him.
Right.
So,
But I don't think we're gonna lose state aid to highways if you do limited, for the safety of elementary school kids, if you do limited traffic control on a town road, during particular, in a school.
For limited hours.
For limited hours in a school zone. I don't think anybody's gonna object. Hopefully, nobody will object to that. I don't think you lose state aid. But we will, as you know, we'll certainly find out.
Right.
okay, so then, one of the things.
So that's one of the points.
hours, that it would be limited to the one-way. Then we also have asking the state or not using salt on common road unless, it needs to be somehow designated as a salt reduction area.
Right.
Because there are going to be times you have to use it. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, we don't need to keep putting all that salt on those trees.
If we can.
Especially we've got
Right.
3 of them that's salting it.
You can certainly put a request into the state, because if they're using it as a turnaround and they're deciding to salt while they go, then maybe they can stop doing that. And that can be a simple request. I don't know why they
But
wouldn't.
you've got trucks coming from the Jamaica station,
Yep.
you've got coming up from Brack, they're all turning around.
But they
there.
don't have to have the salter on.
But Jamaica don't turn around there, they turn around to
Now,
post office.
according to Kurt, they do. He sat here at the last meeting and said that they were turning around on the common, because I
So
asked
it
him
is,
that.
something that's changed then, because they always turned around down to post
I
office.
agree.
In any case, if the request is made to the state, then I think they'll honor that request, they should, and I would hope that they would. Anyway, if there's an instruction to the highway department to not also salt it, it should reduce the amount of
Right.
salt that goes down. So,
Yeah, I should
Okay,
think we also need to
But we can
talk
put
to
it,
Kurt about not salting.
Yeah, and also
as
put
well.
He was here for that part of the
Right.
discussion last time.
yeah, we need it in writing.
Well, I understand.
In
And then
24 point.
we also need to decide what kind of a use policy there needs to be as well. In other words, we've got to protect the trees. We can no longer have people stapling flyers to the trees.
Well, when I put town common use policy on it, that's kind of what I was, the rental leasing, whatever policy, exclusive of this, but yes, I mean,
Right.
it all falls maybe under the same umbrella. But I'm
Protecting the
thinking,
grass, no vehicles.
this is the one page, these are the rules for using the common, whether you're having a wedding or whether you're having a fair.
Right.
But they may as well all be together. If you're
Yeah,
going to set
yeah,
it
yeah,
up,
fine.
because the
Might as well.
road,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
so we're, again, protecting the trees,
No washing your dog in the fountain.
No, yeah.
What?
No, limited access to the grass areas. I mean, we just don't need to have heavy equipment.
Yes,
driving
no
on there.
driving on the grass.
Particularly over all the water lines that are going out.
Right. There's access from all sides.
The one-way access during the school time,
Yeah.
hopefully.
You
During
tell those
pickup and-
kids
during
that,
pickup and drop-off.
what happens when the kids come back the wrong way across the common? Do you have to give them tickets?
Yes.
The
Okay.
kids have to go one way too, right?
Yeah.
Circle. Round the circle.
And then again, one of the things that we talked about is the fact that there are trees that are already in distress. Good possibility we're gonna have to look at replacing some of them relatively soon. And there's not a whole heck of a lot of money left in the common fund.
I would say that anybody who uses the common outside of the school for recess and recreation, but anybody who uses the common for
Events.
events, very loosely and very ambiguously designed, pay something to the town of Townsend by way of
A usage
a
fee.
rental, a usage fee, yeah, usage fee as you suggested. And I think that can be on a scale that the select board sets. For events that are real, whatever that means, I think they should be obliged to prove that they've got insurance coverage. Where, cars are gonna park and numbers of people are gonna show,
Right.
say maybe more than a dozen people. Where you're gonna actually, if you're an official organization, that you be.
So
You know who to call in an emergency, you know who the emergency management director is, you know how to do traffic control, sometimes you need to hire a cop. You know, I mean, there are gonna be issues that you're gonna want in this policy that will or won't apply depending on the event.
Depending on the size of the event.
Right, and you're gonna want the latitude to say, you know, these things do or don't apply, little check mark boxes. But you're gonna want the ability to enforce that and have the rationale and the legal authority to do it behind you, because you wanna make this, everybody plays by the same rules.
Well, and in that grain, we received a thank you from Valley Cares. It says, "Dear Kathy, on behalf of Valley Cares, I would like to thank you very much once again, for allowing us to use the town's common for our 3rd annual benefit concert, which is held July 29th. We appreciate your continued generosity and support for Valley Cares. Luckily, the weather turned out to be fine. The concert was a great success. The proceeds will continue to improve the grounds and other common areas of Valley Cares. We look forward to the 4th annual benefit concert next summer." So again, we're already in this whole process of assuming
Right.
that this is a given, it's an
Right.
annual, they're raising money for their grounds. There should be no reason that we
That we
can't
can't charge
protect
this
it.
fee. Right, to
Exactly.
protect our grounds.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else, or do you wanna just loosely put these down and try to morph it into some kind of a,
Policy. Yeah.
at least a list of things that do's and don'ts?
But like Valley Cares, when they had that thing, they didn't have any vehicles or anything else.
No, they didn't, they
That
didn't.
was a concert.
Right.
No, about the most they did was use the electricity on the gazebo,
Yeah, right.
that type of thing, yeah. But, you know, it's something to think about, because quite frankly,
Yeah, I
it's.
think we.
Which is fine, but you also need, this also came up during the fair days, you also need trash receptacles, recycling bins, those kinds of things. Somebody needs to be in charge of picking up, even on a concert where people come and have a, picnic with paper plates and stuff. You need to have facilities.
Right.
And then somebody, it's not our highway crew, but somebody needs to come and empty the bins.
Yes, or we have to
And
make
they're not a
people, or we have to make people aware
Right.
who are going to use it that they must provide that.
And there are not a lot of bins out there, so,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll,
And no metal detecting digging in the grass. Try to prohibit some of that too.
Yeah.
Time to time.
so we'll get something loosely more for the next meeting, at least to begin a discussion with. Moving on to other business, Lisa Johnson property, we have now exceeded our time limit that we had to wait before we could move on, allowing her to
Okay.
vacate the
Yep.
property. We don't know if there's anybody there or not. There's been no activity visible, but that still doesn't mean that we know it's now
They had
empty.
stuff out there on a table or something. and-
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Well, it's funny,
So-
nothing had happened for quite a while, and then a tent went up, and it looked like they had a yard sale or something, and then the tent was down, and I haven't seen any more activity.
Well,
Doesn't
the
say anything.
legal notification time has now passed. The vacation,
Vacancy.
the notice to vacate
Right,
has in fact, that time has elapsed. The next step, since we don't know for certain whether or not anybody is living there or if the premises are being used, is to take it to court. That's the next step.
okay.
So, I asked Craig if he brought it to my attention, we passed our deadline. And I'd asked him if he had a chance to get a hold of the attorney today. He did not have a chance to do
I
that.
brought it up in the middle of 100 other things.
Yeah,
It
you
was
did.
one straw too many for her, so I didn't get around to it. But I will call, find out where they are with it. I have not heard from them, which is a little,
Well, we.
but we will initiate again.
we
I
had-
did call
We had
3
called
weeks ago
and asked,
to remind them.
to say that, in fact, that deadline was coming up, what's the next step? Are you going to have, when that deadline gets here, are you going to have the paperwork ready to go to court? I mean, we don't need to drag this out for however many years, just because the documents aren't being filed with the court.
Right.
And,
I did find a letter, I don't remember what I done with it, but I was looking through it, it came from Secretary of State's office. It does have to be advertised. You can't just take.
We gotta take possession first, or she's.
No, but I
Right.
say you just can't take somebody and say, well, I wanna buy it. It's gotta be advertised.
Yeah, we're nowhere near that.
We're a long way off from that.
We'll have a conversation about disposal once we get a hold of it, I guess. But we can't go on the property right now. And we go to court, basically, we're charging her rent. and if she doesn't pay, then the court I mean, it's ridiculous. It is what it is, I'm sorry, it is what it is. But that appears to be the next step.
Yes, so
Unless Rob and I take care of the problem.
Me?
Yeah.
all I know is.
Dead and Night Enterprises.
I see absolutely no immediate hope for recouping the lost tax revenue, let's just put it that way. So if you would be kind enough to follow up with the attorney and find out what has to happen,
Next.
when the court documents are going and who's involved with that whole proceedings, I'd appreciate it. All right, the other one on there is the Rescue Inc. meeting, which is on August 31st. This is a meeting for select boards to understand how the agency sets its rates and to make the select boards aware prior to their budgetary season what the current thinking is as far as the rates for the new fiscal year. And I will tell you that due to changes in funding structure at the federal level and funding structure at the state level, the two biggest payers are the two governments. They have decreased the amount of money that they're paying, and so the rates are most likely going to have to escalate. So I'm in an unusual situation there, because I am the liaison from the town of Townshend to the rescue board, and I am also the president of the corporation. So I would really appreciate it, since I will be wearing multiple hats that night anyway, that somebody else from this board,
She might get confused.
Where's the meeting in Brattleboro?
it's in Brattleboro, it's stationed in Bratt.
I'll be there.
Okay, that, somebody's there that can understand, so when those questions come up, like they did last year at town meeting, someone else other than me can answer them, because I do appear to be conflicted, even though there's, anyway.
One question though, the agenda says 7:30, the flyer from them says 7.
Did I put, my agenda may be wrong.
Okay.
That would be the case.
Is serving dinner?
Yeah,
7?
crackers and cheese,
Yeah, it is 7 o'clock.
no wine, just crackers and cheese,
Wow.
sorry.
There should be some wine, that's
I
right.
don't disagree. Okay, so the next meeting is on September 12th at 6 o'clock. And I have had a request for an executive session. I'm not sure under what criteria? Evaluations?
Employees' performance.
Okay, employment evaluation. Okay, I gotta look that one up. So while I'm doing that, are there any other notices?
A13. In other business, I'd just like to say that after the last meeting, the loader was vandalized, the windows were broken. The conversation quickly turned to the gravel pit, and the next morning there was a cable put across the road at the gravel pit and a no trespassing sign. I do think that the board should, if that's going to be the case, I think the board should issue that as a directive, that you're closing this piece of land you're basically telling the public they can't access the land. I know it's a working gravel pit. But as it is right now, I don't know that, well, the board didn't, there's nothing in the minutes that said the board told Kurt or Bob or whoever to go put a gate up.
Right. We talked about it,
Yeah,
but we made no
wait a
decision.
minute, you went back in the minutes and you found out where he was told to put up a
No,
gate.
he said he could put one up, that there was a gate available, but it was never instructed in 2012 to actually do it. And to me, it would be something where the board would actually have a motion,
Before he
vote on it.
Before he was there always was one.
Okay, and that's fine.
Hey,
Yep, cable.
I have a question about the cable.
Okay.
I do believe that it was at the beginning of the year, over at the ball field, we asked about putting something up. And it was by no means are we gonna put a chain, a cable, or anything else for the liability part. Which, to me, kinda went over my head, thought it was a little ridiculous. Somebody farts down there and we put a cable on. Now, there's over 10 people that are fixing the ditches over there, and every single one of us that are fixing the ditches on that ball field have a job where we get paid. And usually it's not minimum wage. And I'm pretty sure if you took those 10 people and you added up the time in the past years to fixing the tire ruts on that ball field, it's gonna way override $2,500 worth of glass in that loader.
It ain't the glass.
No.
Oh, and I don't think
I'm just
a
saying
cable
that-
would have kept kids from throwing rocks if that's the case. I'm just saying,
Well,
I
unless
was,
we take the rocks out of the pit, they're gonna keep throwing.
well,
You're
the
just
glass,
gonna,
the
you're gonna
glass
take
got
away the
vacuumed.
thing that they're throwing them at. But my point is,
They won't
is
get
that
cut picking them up.
on a
anymore.
whim, there's a cable down there. And it was a huge liability. I've been around here a long time. Way more people travel through that on wheelers and snowmobiles than over there on that.
There's a snowmobile bridge down there, but that's another
So-
subject, yeah.
But they,
Point already
that's
made.
not, that part of the pit from out there to the beaches, the speedway is not open to snowmobiles.
Irvin, I don't care if it's open to snowmobiles, birds, airplanes, or anything else, it gets used. And
Maybe
that is
it's used, but you've got no, they got no permission, so if anything happens, they're at fault. That's right in the snowmobile law in the state of Vermont. You go back and look at the snowmobile law, and if they use
I
something,
don't care what you're telling me.
it's their own
It gets
fault.
used more down there than it does over there.
So the,
Bottom line.
the question is, do we want a cable?
Can we now put a cable to the wall?
Right, in other words, do we want to put a cable across one piece of property that we didn't put across, I mean.
Well, no,
what's
that
your-
isn't even the point. My point is
I
that
understand what you're saying,
in a whim, it goes in quick as a hiccup,
but it wasn't our whim.
but it wasn't over there. So if we're gonna
It
go
wasn't.
tit for tat, then we go tit for tat, but just making a point.
But we also didn't decide to put the gate in the
There
front of it. We
Is
talked
cable
about it
across, bottom
and
line.
where then.
All right.
Maybe that's grandfathered through, which should be before my time, or at least beyond my memory. So whatever, anyway, I just noticed that it wasn't a board directive. It seems to me a little excess. But in any event, it's something to know about and something to consider and throw out there. And as Rob's pointing out, a matter of consistency of addressing issues.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
Consistency.
there you go.
Exactly right.
Is that it?
Yes. That's all that. Fire up something else.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to move into executive session under. Yeah, well, yes, 1 VSA 313, section 313, A3, no, excuse me, 4, to, A4, to discuss the evaluation of an officer or employee. Nope, you're right, it was 3.
A3.
Yeah.
A13, or A3.
1 VSA 313,
A3.
A3,
Yeah, okay.
and that's for the evaluation or appointment of a public officer or employee. That was the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in, there is discussion on this one, at least according to your note.
There will be a resolution now.
Yes, I'm asking Craig to excuse us.
Oh, yeah, no, I can do that.
Okay, is there anything else that needs to be a matter for? All right, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Call it 8:15.
Right, and I'll get you a timeout and whatnot when we're done.
Okay.